The Grove Podcast.
Hello, my name is Tabs, and welcome to episode 186 of the Grove Podcast. Now, thank you for listening, and I hope you're all doing very well. And if you're out in Budapest, I hope you managed to eventually get back safe and sound. I know some haven't returned yet, and I was potentially going to be one of those people, but I managed to get back this morning. Look, as I know, for many, including myself, it was quite, as I said, it was quite a challenge. And I guess now we're all figuring out what on earth to do with ourselves now that the season is over. Yep, that's right. The 25-26 season has come to an end. We had the Champions League final on Saturday, the parade yesterday, and just like that, it's done. It's over for another season until it all starts up again and we go again. And I guess for many, it will be a time to have a break from it all, recharge those Arsenal batteries, reconnect with all those non-Arsenal things in your life, if there is such a thing. After what has been a long and grueling, emotionally draining, yet ultimately successful 9 months. And saying that, we will still be podding over the off season, just a little less frequently, and we'll be doing some sort of season review, award pods, squad-related pods, transfer news, maybe a community cast or two. So we'll see how that goes. And then before you know it, the World Cup will be over. Everyone will be bored of Test cricket, and then all of a sudden the pre-season is upon us, and we go again. And in today's pod, we have a couple of fine gentlemen joining us today to look back at our collective Champions League final experience, and then also to chat about that amazing parade that took place yesterday in the streets of Islington. And start off, we have my roomie Ian, aka Ask Cannon Picks. Are you glad the season is finally over? Can you remember the names and faces of your wife and kids?
Yeah, I was saying just before I went over to Budapest, I remember just giving my wife a hug and saying I'm so excited about this weekend. Like, I cannot wait for it, but I also cannot wait for this season to be over, because my body and my mind were slowly being sucked away. Like, it's been an incredible season. The last few weeks, especially, being so stressful, trying to get the league over the line and then the build up to the Champions League. But I'm gonna miss it obviously over the summer, but I'm very much looking forward to the break.
Indeed, and also we have Mitch. Thank you for joining us today. And what are you going to do with all that spare time?
Just going to recover from football. As Ian was saying, I feel like this year's been the most stressful ever, and I've been supporting Arsenal, following football for a very long time, and I do try and kind of maintain the sensible level of mental health, and not like go full ballistic if we do something amazing, and then full devastated for 2 weeks if we draw away at Wolves or whatever. But I think just a bit of a break. I might be talking for a small percentage of the people listening to the pod, but I'm not as excited about the World Cup as a lot of other people. I'm a bit drained by it. I spend half the season not liking these guys, and then they put an England shirt on, obviously not the Arsenal players, and I can't love these guys suddenly, and I'm just a bit drained from it. So yeah, a break, some family, get healthy again. I've had a bit of a foot injury, so I'm going to do kind of some cycling, some running, and get back in shape. But I'm not super psyched about watching much football. My mates are just messaging me saying, should we meet up in London for all the England games? I'm like, well, not all the England games. I don't want to jump on a train for a while if I can. But just kind of recover, keep an eye on who we are and aren't buying on a bit of social media, but maybe even try and limit a tiny bit of the socials as well.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. It's going to be hard for the next few days to avoid all of that, but yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. And and as for the World Cup, being Italian, then I haven't got a huge amount to look forward to. Well, in fact, nothing. So I can sort of enjoy it from a distance. But I guess also with the World Cup, just all the Trumpism around it and all the FIFA and nonsense and stuff, it's just taking the edge off it. But we'll see. I think we'll be watching it, but again, I haven't got a huge, and same with Ian. We're not invested in it, so we can sort of enjoy it from afar without having to get too involved. But that's for another day. So look, as I said, in today's pod, we're gonna look back at the Champions League final, talk about our fan experience, being there, and then also just a bit about the game. And then I said we're going to chat about the amazing parade that took place on the streets of Islington yesterday. And let's kick off by talking about the Budapest final. The first thing to note was I loved Budapest as a city. It was such a cool place, a great scenery, great architecture. everything worked really well. Lots of good food and drink options. Just a wonderful place and a wonderful city to visit. And talking with fellow fans and seeing on the social, it's amazing the lengths people went to get to the final, to be in Budapest. It was literally planes, trains and automobiles, traveling from all over the world, many without tickets to be there, with multiple stopovers, multiple modes of transport. I mean, Mitch, you had a friend who came over from Texas. I know someone who drove from Marseille, a 17-hour round trip. And Ian, yourself, you travelled on planes and trains and a coach. So before we get to the game, Mitch, what was your experience of being in Budapest, experiencing the city, experiencing the host city, the build up to the game, the fan park and all the rest of it? How did you enjoy all of that?
Yeah, as soon as we landed and got through, I was on the Friday flight coming into Budapest super early, and I was at like third in line at passport control. Rapid. To be fair, actually, when we landed, the air hostess kind of said, "Good luck tomorrow, everyone," and we did start singing "We Are Unbearable," which got some laughs. But as we landed straight through passport control and 6 steps down out of the airport, straight onto a free bus into town, I thought the organisation from the city was absolutely amazing. We shouldn't forget they had a general election and a significant change in government. I think the election was April 20th, so they're only a month and a bit in. And talking to some local Hungarians, they were kind of not sure initially how well the new government were going to take over, whether funding would disappear. But I thought it was so organised. I mean, we legged it around the city on proper trains, metros, buses, yeah. And then the kind of Champions Express, they called it. Kind of that was a separate bus from the airport and then back from the fan park. Just really well organised. And I thought, considering it's a country where people don't speak as great English as maybe some of the other kind of maybe Scandi countries or Holland or whatever, everyone was so friendly and genuinely pleased, and they were really proud that their city was hosting this. We'll talk a little bit later about some of our accommodation travels, but I was talking to a mate of mine who's Hungarian, and he was genuinely interested in what the city's perception would be by all these internationals coming from all over the world. And I literally said, apart from one taxi driver trying to con me out of a significant amount of money in a cab, apart from that, every experience with the locals was really, really good, and people really friendly. And at no point did I feel like we were imposing on them, because there was a lot of Arsenal and we were allowed across the whole city for 3 days. And I thought it was an absolutely great experience. Like you, Tabs, I'd never been there before. I will be taking my wife there now. Some of the pictures I sent back on the trip got her interested, so we'll be doing that again. But I think the other thing as well is the fan park experience plus the Heroes Park, and maybe we'll talk about Heroes Park in a second. All of that was just really well laid out. It was only a short walk to the stadium, and the fan park was just, I've got 2 different experiences, pre-game, post-game, which we'll maybe talk about a bit later. But I walked into the fan park, dropped my bag off a case for free. You can just leave the cases there. Just started walking in a direction I thought was the right direction. I then bump into one mate, sit down. I then look over, and you Tabs and Ian are over literally 12 seats away. I mean, and this place was massive. It wasn't like it was a small, like a few tennis court sizes. So I must have come to the right place. And then, as you say, my mate who flew in from Austin, Texas, just walks past. Again, none of it was kind of intentional. Here's my location meetup. So yeah, really, really good. And again, in the fan park, loads of toilets. There was loads and loads of food places. I mean, it got busy and the queues did increase, but really nicely laid out. And most of the security guys I spoke to were really nice. And even the kids on the kind of university age kids on the bag drop, really, really friendly. So yeah, 100% positive experience.
Yeah, Ian, how did you find it all? I mean, we were fortunate or unfortunate enough to be rooming together for the trip, but we shared a lot of the experiences. But how did you find it in Budapest? And not that we want to branch out now from food reviews into city reviews, but if you watch the last pod, then you'll know what we're talking about. But yeah, how did you find out the whole experience of just being in Budapest for the sort of 3-4 days that we were there?
Yeah, I mean, Mitch has summed it up perfectly there. Like, they were so friendly. The city, it was so clean. I didn't know what to expect when we got there. Like, are we imposing on them? Like, will there be lots of grumpy locals and all this? But there was none of that. I was really impressed by them giving free travel to anybody with a ticket. If you're getting on a bus or a metro or anything. You just have to show them your Champions League ticket on your phone. And yeah, I was really, really impressed. The food, everything. Yeah, the only downside was just having to room with you. But look, we'll get over that, I'm joking. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure.
I won't mention the snoring then, shall we? Let's not go there. Yeah, you're right. I thought it was fantastic. A great place to go. And Mitch, I like what you said. Oh, we will go back with your wife. I'm now selling all my trips abroad with Arsenal as well. Let me go and check the city out first, and if it's worthwhile going back, then we will. So there we go. But so Ian, on the day of the match, how did you find that, and especially the fan part? I mean, I found how relaxed were you for such an amazing game? It seems to be just such a hyped, happy atmosphere, not a tense, oh my God, we're just going to play one of the biggest games of football in our lives. How did you find that in the fan park? Everyone being in just such a joyous, happy mood.
Yeah, you didn't get the feeling that there was a lot of nerves around, but also that's not through overconfidence or anything like that. I think people were just determined to enjoy the experience, and there was lots going on. Gunnersaurus was walking around. There was big screens up. There was loud music. There was a big inflatable dartboard that people were kicking footballs against. Velcro footballs and all this, and I love the big Arsenal sign, the concrete. With it spelled out like it is at the Emirates, the big concrete Arsenal sign. I spent a good bit of time because there was lots of different people I knew arriving, so I spent a good bit of time kind of guiding people into where we were and saying hello to a few people. And yeah, there was just a great relaxed atmosphere. A good buzz. I made the decision. I said I'm not going to drink before the game. I wanted to soak it all up, including the game itself. Obviously, I didn't want to be 3 sheets to the wind, and there were plenty of those in the stadium. I just couldn't understand why people would do that. I can guarantee you some of the people who are in that stadium won't remember 1 second of it. But I said I'll wait until after, hoping that we'd win. But yeah, it was fantastic. There was no trouble. There was no hassle. It was just a really good vibe.
Yeah, no, God, there was someone like that next to us, and it got irritating that he's not going to remember any of this. It was hardly watching the game; it was just there holding, or should I say, spilling a pint half his time. Look, each to their own, and they've paid their ticket and they can do what they want. But there we go. And then what was nice, and then there was sort of like everyone sort of then eventually just sort of organically started to walk to the stadium. I said, we wanted to get there early, and like it opened up 3 hours before kickoff, and I wanted to get there early just because I still couldn't believe I was going to the Champions League final. And it wasn't until I'm literally through the gate and showing my ticket that I can go, oh my God, I'm actually here. So there was a nice walk through the park and to get the stadium, and there was singing going on, and it was just a really nice sort of again. I've been to a few away games this season, and sometimes the atmosphere can be a bit tense and the police can be a bit intimidating. But I think partly because I think it was all Arsenal fans, and they did well to segregate everyone. Paris fans would be coming from a different side and the different ends. Yeah, it was just all building up. It was a lovely day, and I think it was all just building up to a thing. And then when we get to the stadium, and then I've seen your video online, and it sort of reminded me of that first experience as a kid. When you go through the concourse and then through the tunnel, and all of a sudden you see this expanse of green and the seats, and they'd laid out all the t-shirts on the sheet on the seats, and the same for Paris and the same for Arsenal. Sort of like jaw dropping. How did you find that? How did you find that? How was your sort of where were you sitting and
yeah.
And that.
So I walked up with you guys, and it was, as you say, it was about a 15-minute walk, and there was, again, loos on the way. People needed to stop. We were picking up some Arsenal fans for some bars and restaurants as we were kind of walking along. There was a few short delays, but that's because I think we were there a bit early. They weren't late in opening. We just got there 15, maybe minutes early. And again, the really, really positive vibe in the crowd. Again, as you say, everyone's, this might be the only Champions League final for a while, so enjoy every second of it, which I think everyone does. And for me, we all got together until we got wiped that last bit where everyone went to different sections, and some of the queues were going through much quicker. So the queue to my right, they weren't checking passports. The queue to my queue, they were.
Really?
to
Okay,
keep-
because we didn't get
so I
checked.
don't- yeah.
We didn't get checked on passports.
Yeah,
no.
yeah. So kind of then everyone kind of filtered in. But the thing that got me is as we're going in, because remember on the instant reaction, we've just won the Prem pod that we did. I was saying, like, guys, I haven't cheered or kind of been emotional yet. I was kind of in that disbelief relief thing. As we're going through to that, I guess the third bit of security, when you had to kind of have the green screen come up on your phone, I looked to my left and there was a David Rocastle shirt, which then made me kind of think I loved Rocky. But then it made me think of my dad taking me to football. Then it made me think of my mum and dad. And I got in and I'm just kind of looking around and thinking, wow, I'm at the Champions League final. So I recorded a video for my parents. Like, fellas, I lost it. And I've never done anything like this in my life. I swear to you. I just started, because I didn't want to call them because mum's not great on her phone and she's kind of not looking at the right angle. So I thought if I'd video it and send it, they could then see it. And it's just kind of me kind of saying, I know this isn't the Premier League and I'm at the Champions League final in the shadow of the stadium, but I'm just now realizing what this season's been about as well. It isn't just tonight or that night. And and I was just, like, literally super. I'll send you guys a video after. Just don't forward it. Don't put it on socials.
No.
Because it'll ruin what very little reputation I have. But I was just super excited. And then I kind of, and this is so weird, I hadn't even got into because once you get in through that section, there's a really big outdoor concourse, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And then you had to go through another set of security.
It's a really well laid out stadium.
It is.
Unfortunately, it's
really
only
good.
60,000 or 65, but everything about it is really, it's a modern, nice laid out stadium.
As I'm in that bit, I'm kind of wandering around a little bit, waiting for some of my buddies who are a little bit later coming in. And I saw a lady, roughly the same age as my mum, just sit down next to me and we just started chatting. Lady's probably in the late 60s, early 70s. Massive Arsenal fan. She was there with 3 sons, all grown young men. And shout out to them. Bless them, I can't remember their names, but one of the lads bought me a pint of Diet Coke. But we were just chatting about football and just really, really friendly. There's 5 in the family, a mum, a dad, and 3 sons, but they only got 4 tickets in the ballot. So they had to leave the dad behind. Credit to the dad for not putting his foot down there. But it was a mum and 3 sons. Really kind of old school Arsenal, just really, really good fun chatting to them. I met 2. Loved having a chat with 2 random Arsenal fans that introduced themselves as Cotswold Gooners. There was just 2 of them. Just really, again, really, really super friendly. And then I did what what you've just described. When you kind of do that, I've got the same video. You kind of walk into the stadium and see the green below you and the red and white around. And I lost it again. It just was amazing. The very strange thing about my seat was at the Emirates, I sit at the back row, upper tier on the little dip in the southwest corner. And we were in the equivalent seats, but in the middle tier, almost in exactly the same angle. It's kind of like someone had said, Mitch always watches football from this angle. And but the only slight negative about our seats is it backed onto club level. And guess what team's club level it was? Honestly. It was just PSG, and we were kind of saying, that's just why didn't they put the PSG on that side over there and the Arsenal behind us? To be fair, the one directly behind us only had 2 guys in it, and they kept leaving the door open, so we were getting their air conditioning. No criticism there. The ones to the left and the right were very, very French, some kind of maybe Arabic French kind of linked in maybe to the owners, but they were kind of, you could tell they were very, very well to do. They all had like security, like proper guys who looked like they used to be special forces, and maybe some wives and girlfriends potentially. But to be fair, they were fine. They obviously went nuts. They didn't like us celebrating the goal, Kai's goal. So when they equalised, they went absolutely ballistic. But again, not an ounce of trouble near us. Great vibe. But yeah, I was pleased to get that bit of air conditioning because it was. Were you in direct sunlight, fellas? We were like in direct sunlight.
We were into. Well, I was until kickoff, and then kickoff it just dipped down. So no, I was in the sort of the lower tier, sort of like 3/4 of the way up in the corner. So I love a corner position, so you can see across the goal and up the touchline. And yeah, it was just a fantastic seat and fantastic views. You had a bit of depth of vision and stuff like that. So I really like that. And I like what you said about messaging your parents. I didn't do it at the time, but I did it on the way back yesterday. I messaged my uncle, who was the one that took me to Arsenal back in, he had my first season ticket 82, 83, and he took me, and I had lots of fond memories of driving up and finding our parking spot near Highbury, and then going into we had a ticket in the back, the lower tier back of the West Stand, and always get chips at this certain place. So I said, I haven't spoken to him for ages. So I sent him, a long message about, me supporting, and then about Gianluca, my son, and sent him a few photos of the recent week, and he's just messaged me back, and I thought, yeah, it was nice. You suddenly at these moments remember what got you into Arsenal, who got you there, and I thought, no, I really should let him know. I mean, he doesn't follow it as closely anymore, but I still had to say that this is your fault.
Yeah.
You've cost me a fortune, you have, but it's all worth it. So yeah, how did you enjoy that, in just get into the stadium and just sort of just pinching yourself, saying, I'm actually here now? It's
you had to remind yourself of what game you were going to, and I couldn't relax until we were in through the last security check. You know, you still feel something's going to go wrong. And yeah, I went in, we walked up the stairs, and I had that moment where we were in block 211. The stairs that we came up, I think, took us to 214. So we had to walk past all these entrances into the blocks. And I remember just walking past whatever it was, 214, 213, and I looked. So you get to see that little window of the seats and the stadium in the background, and I just went, my heart just like skipped a beat, and I kept walking. I said, I'm not going to look until I get to 211, and that's when I recorded the video. And yeah, we went up to the seats just to have a look around. We did a little sneaky thing where we were looking for the sizes of our t-shirts, and we changed a few t-shirts around on the seats to get our favorite size, or but we won't go on about that. And that we went back down, just myself and Mark, who sits beside my cousin at the Emirates, and we went back down, and it was funny because we watched everybody do exactly what I just did, in that they came up the stairs, they took one look, and they were like, whoa, like you could they were audibly, making just like, I can't believe that I'm hearing noises, and we also funnily watched about 6 or 7 men go into the ladies' toilets because they couldn't work out the
logo is really similar.
Yeah, I almost went that way, and then did exactly the same.
They were, and you just see them. It was so funny. They'd walk in, and then like you could nearly time it. 6-7 seconds later, they'd walk out going, "Oh!" And so we had a bit of fun with that. And then as it got like you guys, I did get emotional just before kickoff, and I won't jump too far ahead, but I remember, like literally just before kickoff, I looked up at one of the big screens, and it was just showing the stadium, and it was going around the crowd, and I just got this vision in my head of me sitting at home watching this, and I would have been thinking to myself, oh my God, I wish I was there. And I was picturing my cousins and my family, my brother who got me into following Arsenal, and I started to well up. I was like, how lucky am I here? Because this is just something that we've all wanted to do, go to a bloody Champions League final. And yeah, so just an unbelievable feeling, and yeah, and then it didn't take long for us to go absolutely mental either.
Well, yeah, so let's talk about the game. And first off, we get the team news at, I don't know what time it was, but we get the team news an hour and quarter before kickoff. That's it. Yeah, we got the team news, and we're in the stadium, which is very rare. That's how early we were. We were a good 2-3 hours before kickoff. We were there. Amazing how quickly that went, by the way. So we get the team news. So the big news is that Timber Mosquera starts. So Timber wasn't fit to start, or they didn't want to risk him starting. Hincapié at left back, Lewis Skelly in midfield, and then it was Havertz up front. So those were the sort of the main decisions. So what Mitch, what did you make of that? I mean, I think the biggest surprise was Hincapié potentially, and it turns out, was Calafiori actually unfit? Was he injured for the match? I don't know if you heard anything, but yeah, what did you make of that lineup?
Yeah, only after the match I heard he wasn't in great shape unless they had to use him.
Right, okay.
From a contact. But at the time, I was just thinking maybe he's gone with defensive structure and the defensive stability over the creativity that he offers. Especially, I'd have to look at the stats, but I don't know if once Lewis Skelly's playing in midfield and offers what he does, maybe playing Calafiori at the same time is a little bit too similar. I'd have to look and see if Arteta kind of tries to alternate those where he can. But I think, but just because I was looking up the stats today, PSG in the Champions League have averaged 67% possession or something. I know they haven't always played good football teams, but you kind of look at that and you're thinking, I don't think we were going to dominate the ball. So I kind of expected the Hincapié. I was hoping Timber, but I didn't. I was thinking maybe 20 minutes at the end if we needed him. And based on recent attempts, recent performances for Victor coming off the bench, where he does run around like a crazy person and kind of bully kind of fatigued defenders. I bought into that as well. I think the biggest surprise, really, I don't know if you guys, but was the Zubamendi again for Lewis Skelly. I mean, that was a month ago. We weren't even talking about him, really, were we? I'll have to look at the calendar and see where the last games were. So I kind of, looked at it and you kind of go, yeah, fair enough. I generally didn't expect us to get 25%, was it 26, 27% possession? But I thought we'd maybe get a third, 35%. I didn't expect to go 50-50 on possession against that team.
No, and I'll touch on that later. But so yeah, Ian, I mean, Ian, were you happy with that, or did you want anything different? I mean, we talked about it before, and I think it was pretty much roughly what we said, as opposed to Calafiori over Hincapié. But other than that, I think it was pretty much as we expected.
Yeah, I was hoping for Calafiori. Because we would have been a bit more front-footed. I think, Mitch, you're right in saying that maybe it was a bit too risky playing both MLS and Calafiori. They're two kind of Mavericks style players, so that makes sense. But I really wanted, bottom line was I would have taken a 1-0 win with a deflection off Hakimi's whatever. But I was hoping we'd take the game to PSG a bit. And maybe the fact that we scored so early, maybe that kind of had an impact on how the possession stats went. Would it have been like that had it been 0-0 for 60 minutes, 70 minutes? I don't know. Maybe it would. But yeah, other than that, I not knew, but I had a feeling Havertz would start. I thought Lewis Skelly was going to start purely because that's what he's doing lately. Ever since that Fulham game, that must have only been about 4 weeks ago, was it? Like 4.5 weeks, something like that. So I had a feeling he would. And Mosquera, there was part I said in the pod that we recorded in Budapest that, and I was way wrong, but I thought that he might have put Zubamendi in there purely because he did that at Crystal Palace. But I thought Mosquera had a very good game. Like I know he gave away the penalty, but he had a really solid game. Like Kvaratskhelia, didn't get much change out of Mosquera, so no real complaints there. So other than that, I think it was the lineup we were expecting.
Yeah, and then it was about how you start the game, but then also how you finish the game, and who's going to be on at the end, and to do what, or depending on game state. So no, I don't think any issues. So as we always do, I was wondering whether to do this section or not, but I will do. Mitch, what was your highlight and then low light? One particular highlight, one particular low light from the game.
I'm not going to go with the penalties. The bit that genuinely made me jump out of the chair, because I was rotating between standing up and sitting down just through nerves. Do you remember that run that Skelly had, where he kind of went through about 3 or 4 people? That got me out of my chair, and I was so excited for him. And again, I'm thinking, a month ago, he's a third string left back. So that's the bit that got me out of my chair.
But did you hear the interview he did with? I can't remember who it was with, but it might have been the overlap one. He's actually been training in midfield for the last 3-4 months. So we're not privy to that. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. We're thinking, he's a third choice left back. This time next year, he'll be with another club, and little do we know that he's
Yeah, that got me out of my chair and excited. I won't obviously the goal, but that's a separate thing. Maybe the thing that shout out to my mate Jose that sits next to me at Arsenal. He before every game he messages me and says, "I just don't want the referee or VAR to influence the game." And I'm always like, yeah, mate, And even me, I'm thinking, surely FIFA or UEFA are going to give us the best refereeing crew and VAR crew, and the best that isn't one of the two of the nationalities of the teams play. And I genuinely thought first half the referee was okay, average. I mean, not perfect, but there was suddenly this point where we would do something, they would do something to one of our players, like a block or push or a foul or something. Nothing's done because it was on us. But then we do the same thing. Almost, some of it was almost identical. And then you're like, the referee's just not called that. So that my biggest low light, and I'm really interested to see the angle you guys were looking at this from. So my biggest low light was Saka goes into a challenge with one of their players. The referee very clearly waves his arms out in front to say, play on. Saka plays on. And then the referee calls it back and then books him. That was, for me, I was like, the refs lost it. So what was your view of that, and what was your perception of what the referee may or may not have been thinking?
On that particular incident, I've seen the replay of it, and actually Saka studs the ball. He doesn't actually touch the player. And then I think it's the ball that goes in the way, but he doesn't really touch that. So yeah, you if you're seeing it quickly, I feel like, oh, okay, they're going for a challenge, 50-50, but Saka gets there first, but then in Mendes slides under, I think it's Mendes, and you think, oh, his studs have caught this shin, and that's really, but no, he never touched him. But the fact he never touched the player, and he then gets booked, is absolutely nonsense. I mean, Daniel Siebert, that was his name, and I don't want to put our loss down to the ref. However, shall we say he's inconsistent? And by inconsistent, I meant he gave fouls for PSG and didn't give them for us. and I've seen. I try not to torture myself about this, but I've seen a track of where they've compared all the fouls, and the biggest one for me was the Timber one when his arm is just there, but he doesn't do anything. He's breaking into the box, and the referee pulls him back. He then does the thing, and Ian, I'm now with you on this one. He does the thing where we're allowed to set up for a corner, but then doesn't allow us to take it. Well, then don't just blow up before we're doing all the setup. And it feels like there was some sort of directive to say, hey, keep it as close and even as possible to make it as close a match as possible. And the fact that we scored meant that he had to then give certain decisions in a certain way because on your point about our possession, well, we had a certain game plan, and I'll touch it later. But a lot of that was dependent on being able to counter. But the referee kept on pulling us back on the counters when we'd done absolutely very little wrong, and especially when it was just like, well, PSG did exactly the same thing or whatever, and they got given a free kick, and we do that, and not, and it wasn't so an egregious performance where it was sort of like bad, but it was just constant like. What?
Consistently inconsistent in the second half.
Yeah, and that was nuts. I mean, I guess we will come to the penalty decision for Madueke soon enough. But Ian, what did you make of Daniel Siebert from Germany?
Yeah, like I didn't like what he did, especially from the worst was that corner. I think I thought he was very biased towards PSG, and I know I'd be saying that as an Arsenal fan. Like early in the second half, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but he set the tone early in the second half because he booked Mosquera very early for delaying a throw in, or for taking time to take a throw in. And they like to put a right back on a yellow card against one of the best left wingers in the world in the Champions League final for that, I think is outrageous. Now, don't get me wrong, Arsenal frustrate me as an Arsenal fan with how they go on with their throw-ins. I'd be shouting at them saying, well, you bloody throw the thing. But it has to be bigger than that, you know? And then what really annoyed me was the PSG players later on in the game start doing the same thing, and he didn't book them. I thought he was very inconsistent. If you're going to do it to one, do it to the other, whether it's like yellows for delaying, whether it's fouled, like he really annoyed me. And that corner at the end of the first half was just weird. And it was like he was given a brief at halftime. I'm not saying this is what happened, but it felt as though something changed at halftime, and he went really, really one-sided. And we all said it. Jose is right. There's just one thing you don't want is for a referee to have an impact. The referee should be kind of seen and not heard in these instances. And I just feel he went very PSG.
Yeah, I saw a quote from a really interesting response, a quote on the game from Wayne Rooney, who I'm not a fan of, so I'm not gonna. But he said, "I don't think I've seen that in my entire football career." What's the effect of? Like just questioning, you can't let them set up for corner then. Or if you're going to do that, say you've got 10 seconds, I'm going to blow. Let's go. fellas, I'm
hurry
about
up.
to blow. Just point to the whistle, I've got to go. But he let them take a while. And then as soon as he steps up, he's like, oh, no, you're done. Like, at that point, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. And Arsene Wenger said something very interesting afterwards. I read this out to you, Tabs. I won't be able to remember it exactly, but he said that today. He said the game today wasn't settled on the pitch, or during play. He said he didn't say it directly, but he was basically saying that the referee had a big impact on the game. Now I know obviously Arsene Wenger is a very Arsenal man, very much an Arsenal man.
Yeah, but he's also in with UEFA now or FIFA or whoever, so he's also
he has to be careful, and as well, of course, he's you pointed this out. Was it you, Tabs, that said it to me about his history with Monaco? He had titles kind of robbed from him.
With Marseille. Yeah, Marseille. Yeah.
So so he kind of knows what goes on with the French team sometimes. But yeah, something stank a little bit with that referee.
Yeah, it's a shame because you don't want to be talking about referees, but here we are.
And a lot of we haven't even spoken about the Madueke incident. A lot of neutrals were even they couldn't believe, that he didn't get that.
Well, go on then. Go on then. Let's talk about it because I've got it down as I've got a couple of lowlights, and I'm sure Ian will be yours as well. But the Madueke penalty, or not penalty, Ian, what did you make of that? You brought it up now, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, to be fair, right? I when it happened live, now we're at the opposite end of the stadium, but it looked stonewall from where I was. And I was convinced as soon as it happened, I was just looking at the ref, just waiting for him to point at the penalty spot. And then he waved it away, and I thought, okay, VAR are going to step in here, and there'll be at least a check. And then nothing. And the ball didn't go out of play for probably at least a minute, maybe more. And Declan Rice is chasing after the referee, going absolutely ballistic. And that's always a good sign as to how much a penalty is or isn't. All the Arsenal players appealed for it, and Declan Rice was going mental, as we all saw the referee, so much so he gets booked. After the game, we got back to the apartment and I watched it, and it's not as clear cut as I first thought, because the two of them engage, they literally lock arms, and then but the defender does stop Madueke. Madueke to me doesn't pull him down.
No,
I think the defender falls on Madueke.
Which makes it look like, and then it makes it look like Madueke is pulling him down. Yeah,
but to me, you're stopping the guy's forward motion. He was in a great position. Madueke has no reason to go down there, and I think it's a penalty. I don't think it's as clear cut as I first thought, but I still think it was a penalty.
Well, you've seen him. I mean, Arteta alluded. He said, he said he watched all the penalties given in the Champions League this year, and Madueke got a similar penalty, against Leverkusen. Look, soft, but still a penalty. For me, he stops the momentum. I was a bit like you, but uncertain, and then they hook the arms. But no, I'm now convinced that there's a penalty. He should have been looked at properly. If he gives it, they're not overturning it. He falls on Madueke, he stops his momentum. So that's a penalty, and that's a chance to win the title. And say, oh well, you don't want to make a big decision, blah blah blah, to give a penalty because of the consequences. Well, not giving the decision also has bloody consequences. The other way around. So for me, and especially in Europe, that's a penalty, and then we got Gyökeres at the pitch at the time, and that puts us 2-1 up in the first half of extra time, and who knows what happens there afterwards. It puts us in very good position. So, I'm assuming, Mitch, you also have a similar.
Yeah, I've at the time, obviously, you see the players' response. I think Arteta got booked as well, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you see, So football players and coaches, they know football better than us, and for them to be that convinced. When I saw the video after the game, as Ian was saying, I immediately just said to my mates, anywhere else on the pitch and the referee blows that without hesitation, he's impeded him moving forward. Doesn't matter what body part, doesn't matter if they did have contact with each other, he stopped the guy moving forward. It's a foul, which means it's a penalty. So I don't get it.
Yeah. And but just to say as well, for balance, I think we got away with one with Saka with the handball as well.
Okay. No, he didn't.
In
the rules are clear on this one, if you kick it onto yourself, it's not a penalty. So that actually the rules are fine on that one, and I've checked.
My heart did drop when that happened.
I thought it was a very Champions League style penalty, but if that's the rule,
my heart dropped.
Yeah, so it's fine. If he was kicked on him by another player, then fine. But because of he did it onto himself and his arm was in a natural position, and there was no benefit as a result. Actually, it was worse for him because it was still underneath his body. So no. I think you're right, Ian. I don't want to dismiss what you're saying because everyone at the time thought, oh God, like quick, but no. On actually, I've seen a few things on it, and that isn't a penalty. So yeah, given that the non-penalty award was a low light, what was your highlight then of the game? A particular highlight?
Is that to me or Mitch?
Yeah. No, yeah.
Me. Well, I'll just go with the obvious one. I'll pick the Havertz goal because it was kind of unexpected. Because we know what Havertz is like. When Havertz is running clean on goal, he's not the one that you would bet your house on. It's a 50-50, and then he was going in at that angle, and I thought there's not a hope. And he shot, and I just saw the roof of the net bulge, and I couldn't believe it. Absolute limbs. The whole hour end obviously goes crazy. I nearly passed out. Like I was just like, oh my God, because I know how good we are defensively, and I just thought if we can get ourselves ahead in this game, we've a real chance. Yeah, it was a moment I'll never forget. Obviously, it didn't win us the Champions League, but yeah, the limbs, as the kids say, were incredible. Yeah, that's my highlight.
You can't take that away from the moment. That was and I had that. I had the actual limbs as my highlight because I've never experienced it live. It was absolutely insane, and actually it was quite dangerous at times. Falling over, folding over, big gentleman, leaning over everything and just grabbing everyone and stuff like that. But it was absolutely carnage and a great goal and it was very, very reminiscent of an unfortunate goal that was scored against us. It was like Ryan Giggs back in 99, because there's that angle where Havertz shoots at an angle above the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper's sort of going down a bit and into the roof of the net, and it just reminded me of that, the semi-final goal by Giggs at Villa Park, and you're right, and it was so surprising. And I thought, he's taking it too far. He's got too close to the keeper. What's he doing? And then bang, roof of the net, and it's bedlam there. So a really nice highlight. And at least you have that moment. Again, you're right. Ultimately, it didn't mean anything, but at the time, the experience, that visceral, that whole thing is insane. So Mitch, you touched on it about the possession stats and then just the stats in general. Yeah, overall for the game, it was 75-25. They had 1.72 xG to our 0.5. They had 21 shots, most of them which ended in the upper tier, to our 7. They only had 4 on target to our 1. And here's a really interesting contrasting stat: is the 809 passes to our 196. And look, we had a clear game plan. Ian, you maybe wanted us to be more front-footed and stuff like that, but I think our clear game plan was to just hold them at bay, nullify their threat. Because if we tried to take on like the best attack in Europe, we're just exposing ourselves. So we had to sort of play to our strengths. And if you look at it, everything they did was in front of us. If that was us, we'd all be going the horseshoe of death. Well, this was the French equivalent of the horseshoe of death. And I saw a stat somewhere which basically said PSG sideways passed 678 times last night. So, we blocked off every opportunity. We doubled up on that. It's basically what we see each week in, week out. And if you took away those sideways passes, the possession stats is more 54-45. So they weren't going anywhere with it. So I do hear you that I would have liked to have been a bit more front-footed, and maybe if Calafiores were there was all this. But I think we had a clear plan. As I said, we had lots of opportunity to counter, but then the referee stopped it. So Mitch, what did you make of our tactics, the way it sort of played out?
Yeah, I was messaging people during the game, and obviously very, very different circumstances, different stadium, different time, but I had an 89 vibe feel about it. I felt like we went there to, they will not score. And and I think even if we hadn't have scored, we wouldn't have come out much further than we actually did. I think we've got the best. They'd conceded 22 or 24 in Champions League. We'd conceded 6. Spurs had scored 3 against them. Like, I think Arteta went out there and said they're not good enough to score against you. We just need to take our chances. And no one's ever beaten us by 700, not exceeded the Arsenal by 700 odd passes. Like, I cannot ever remember that, even when we've been a man down, and we've had a few of those games in not this year, but in previous years. So I kind of wasn't nervous about that, because a lot of the patterns, especially in front of me on the right side first half, it was all nice. But if we'd have been doing that at home, our Arsenal, the Emirates crowd would be going, oh, bloody perimeter building again. We're just doing the little pockets on either side. I never really felt in danger. And a lot of their shots, as you say, were killing people in club level. They were miles away. So I kind of felt comfortable. But then the frustration, as you said, Tabs, was the referee, or they were clever enough to foul and maybe not be booked, to kind of classic Man City, to kind of constructively foul and delay any kind of, any fast breaks or counter-attacks. But then I just felt, sadly for a change, our set-piece FC wasn't on point. I didn't really feel like, even in Bakayo's corners weren't as good as normal. I don't think PSG's centre-halves or centre midfielders are that good, and
the goalkeeper as well.
Yeah,
nervous under the ball.
I just thought we could really use the opportunity a bit more. They didn't score.
It was like Liverpool away. They never fell on the right side. It was always on the Madueke Saka side, and I think Madueke was trying to do near post ones, which is like he did at Leeds. I think they'd obviously seen something there, so as a bit of a tactic.
Yeah. They didn't score an open play for 2 hours. I would have loved them to have tried just once the Ebbs pass to someone, and then the corner taker gets it's a left-sided corner, left into
do the short corner.
Routine, and then that pass out to Ebbs just for something different. Especially because the corners, the standard corner procedure wasn't working too well.
Well, we only had 3 corners in the end, so it's hard to sort of.
But even our free kicks that were kind of a little bit maybe in these, I guess, second quarter of the pitch, just outside the penalty area, just didn't feel like they were whipped in at pace and particularly threatening. So I think the stat that jumped out at me was 43. I think it was 43 touches to them inside our box and 13 to us. Yeah. We've done 13. I don't remember the last time we had only 13 touches in the box. So I kind of felt like we had the 89 vibe, but I just felt that I'd give a really good score to the team as a whole for how we defended. I just wouldn't give us as good a score for the stuff moving forward. There were a few times there was a few options open, which we can see because we've got the grace of sitting up in the stand and watching where the space is or isn't. Few opportunities missed there, but I think what sums it up to me with reference from a defensive viewpoint, I got home, bless my wife picked me up at the train station, and she literally said, she's not a massive football expert in any way, but she said as soon as they got the ball, it looked like a red wall was stopping them. And I was like, actually, that was my takeaway from. I didn't feel that threatened by them. I've watched Premier League games this year where I've been more threatened by the attack. I'm talking mid-table teams, not like potentially the best attacking force in world football. So I was confident of that. I said to the guys next to me a number of times, I can't see where our spark of genius is coming from tonight. I just couldn't see which player. I mean, Miles had a few nice touches, but Det worked hard. I couldn't see which of the front four and then the second front four was going to be the one that was going to be that bit of spark apart from obviously Kai's goal.
So, Ian, do you think that was the right approach? Because it almost worked. As I said, they did not score an open play goal. They got a penalty, and it was a penalty, so we can't. And they didn't look like scoring an open play goal. So we got a goal, and a fine goal it was. So maybe do you think that we didn't get there in the end, but we almost did. Yeah. Do you understand why we might have gone down the route of like not getting drawn into PSG's game? Rather than try and dominate possession and then turn it into a big contest, we just compact, disciplined, difficult to break down, limit PSG. Do you understand why we might do that?
Yeah, of course, and especially having scored so early. we kind of doubled down on that. Like, I'm not going to go down the road of we scored too early or anything like that. But
I've got it here in red. Did we score too early?
That's it's kind of an easy thing to say. I don't think there's such a thing as it too early to score, because a goal puts you a goal up and puts you in the driving seat. But I think that definitely set the pattern even more. Like, we'll never know if that was going to be the exact pattern, and those stats would have borne out the same way, roughly, had it been 0-0 up to, say, 60 or 70 minutes. But I think the goal for sure gave us the permission, if you like, to say, right, okay, now we have the lead, we have the trophy, so you guys, it's on you guys to break us down. And bar that one lapse, they didn't create any chances in open play in the 120 minutes. Like, the stats that they had 4 shots on target, I cannot remember. Obviously the penalty is one.
Yeah.
Like, can you think of one other where a shot was on target? I remember about 12 of them that nearly hit me in the nose up in the stadium, but I don't remember them. And those shots, they must have been like tricklers that Raya just kind of picked up. I just can't remember them. So yeah, I think you can't knock it too much. Like, you could, if you took a step back and I was saying earlier on that I would have loved us to be a little bit more front-footed, but that's all well and good, me saying that, but we might have gotten beaten 4-0 if we'd have done that, you know. So
exactly.
What I want as a fan, it's just aesthetics, really. Deep down, all we want is to bloody win 1-0. I couldn't care less how. So I think in answer to your question, I think we did do the right thing, and we very, very nearly pulled it off, just for bar one lapse of concentration.
Yeah, and look, if I know Saka wasn't his usual self to a certain point, but maybe that's because he's doing a lot of defensive duties. You take away someone like Calafiori, who maybe then is also another driving force and an unknown quantity. It's that nullifies a bit. You add in the referee's piss poor decision making and stuff like that. So that's it. And you know, we take on one of the most explosive teams in Europe, and we take them to penalties. So yeah, you're right. You were there. We had one hand in the trophy. It was in touching distance. It just didn't go away. And this game was always going to be about those fine margins. I think we said in the preview pod that for games like this, we knew it was going to be tight. It was 50-50, 60-40, whatever you want. And you need things to go your way. And they didn't in the 120 minutes, and so then it goes to penalties. And me and you, again, we joked about who are going to be your 5 penalty takers, and I joked about Raya's going to be score the winning goal in the Champions League, and it was all about who was on the pitch ultimately, because we took Saka off, we took Odegaard off, took Havertz off, and I had no issues with any of those substitutions, because Havertz was absolutely knackered. He'd done so much running. Odegaard, you want to take off, bring Eze on. Saka, Madueke, I think, did really well. He came on, it changed things up. He was an attacking threat and all the rest of it. So yeah, how were you, Mitch, feeling before the penalties? Were you confident? I mean, we've been good in the past. We've won one penalty shootout this season. We've won them in the past. So yeah, how were you feeling up to the penalties?
So leading up to the penalties, in that little break, we were just saying it's a lottery now, isn't it? Normally at this level, especially in recent years, because Arsenal we had a few penalty shootouts, we normally don't kill someone in club level. We normally have on target, and if they aren't scored, we'll unfortunately hit a post, or a goalkeeper will make the right choice and make a save. So it immediately becomes a lottery. But at that point,
well, all right, I'm going to stop you there. No. Is it a lottery? Is it, or is it not performing under pressure? Because these are professional footballers and they can all kick a ball really hard into the net. Surely it's about execution of a skill under pressure.
No.
Because I'm worried. Because I think it's very easy to say. And no, I just genuinely, because I think because even Declan Rice said it's a lottery. And I think, no, it's just poor execution under pressure.
Yeah, I think, but summing the whole thing up is it's a penalty shootout, I think, is it's kind of,
I know what
but
you
by
mean.
that point, for me, it's a toss of a coin. But you're absolutely right, kind of bringing the sports psyche into it. It's performing under pressure. I'm not a fan of stutter run-ups. The only person that ever gave me confidence doing that was Ainsley Maitland-Niles. He seemed to do it like he was playing street football and was just super calm. what I would tell my goalkeeper to do if the guy makes more than 2 stutters is stand still. Because it gets to the point where you're too near the ball and you can't stop the run up. And that's kind of what happened. To be fair, I haven't looked at that penalty again because I'm still processing. And then Big Gabby's, as Arteta said, he scores in practice. Character-wise, I think at that level, it's as much character as it is talent and technique because, we were saying that if they're the first 5, who, what order are the rest going? And I know you were joking. We spoke about it before the game as well, Tabs, about potentially David Raya taking one. I wouldn't mind him taking one because, as you say, at that point, it's technique and it's kind of confidence and positive mental attitude,
and he can hit a ball really hard.
Yeah, and I'd rather you blast it on target, and if the goalie gets a hand to it and deflects it round, fair enough. But and again, I don't have any stats to suggest like what percentage of stutter run-ups penalties are saved or scored, but I would definitely tell my goalkeeper to just stand still. The lad next to me said, someone's going to just chip the ball straight down the middle today. And I was like, well, if the goalie stands central, he'll save 1 of 5 and that could win us the Champions League, or win his team the Champions League. But yeah, penalties is such a cool thing. The guy in front of us turned around halfway through the second period of extra time and said it'd be really sad for us to lose now on a little, because we did start pushing forward a little bit. And for the people who were saying they wanted us to go all out to try and beat PSG, there was times when we had 2 defenders back and they had 4 in our half. And fortunately, there was some very good chasing back and tackling back. And there were times when we were pushing it a little bit too far, and we could have conceded. But yeah, once it comes to penalties, I'm super nervous for all of them. We couldn't bang on the metal thing behind us like we do at Emirates because it was a glass wall in front of the people at club level. I was watching through my fingers, kind of literally making the smallest shape possible to try and look through. And I don't think I didn't necessarily celebrate our goals because we were always a second taker, weren't we? So it was kind of the pressure. So you almost just equalise rather than go ahead.
Yeah,
so
exactly. It's the relief thing.
So it's a different response.
Yeah.
And the guys who are kind of around me, 2 of them said they didn't realise it was the 5th penalty.
Jesus.
Yeah. So when he saw them run on, he was like, "What? Yeah. Yeah. Didn't realise it was the end of the game." Yeah. But then immediately, just super proud of that team.
Ian, how did you experience the penalties? Were you confident, or just were you able to watch?
Yeah, no, I was, and like as Mitch says, it's a lottery. The one part where it is a bit of a lottery, like the penalty taking is very much part psychological. Huge part psychological, but 2 very important things went against us, lottery wise.
Yeah, this is where we said we need things to go our way. Yeah,
the coin tosses, and some people say, "Oh, it doesn't matter, shouldn't matter," but it does. Like taking penalties in front of a wall of PSG ultras, or taking a penalty in front of a wall of Arsenal fans, are 2 huge different things. And going first and second really does have an impact, because I firmly believe Eze and Gabriel, like, I think they both score if we're first. I really do. But aside from that, I looked at both goalkeepers, and I know David Raya has a history, and he saved the penalty, obviously, but he has a history of diving too early, very early, and he did that for at least 2, maybe 3 penalties. And there was one, I think their last penalty, like he was like, the guy hadn't even, like, I think David Raya dived when the guy was walking up the pitch to take the penalty. Like he was that early. But yeah, it's just horrible. It's a horrible feeling. I was very impressed with Martinelli's penalty. I thought Gyökeres was going to do his usual smash penalty, and like, they're very hard to save. But when you do a smash penalty, like, sometimes a keeper could just guess right. So I was actually impressed by his penalty. He just stroked it into the bottom right hand corner. Waited for the goalkeeper. Declan Rice's penalty was very good. And when I saw Gabriel walking up, I just thought, I don't know if this is the right person. Look, obviously he put his hand up and he's brave and all that, but you had Madueke there, you had Zubimendi, and look, they could have walked up and missed as well.
Yeah,
we don't know. We'll never know. But it's I wasn't filled with a huge amount of confidence when I saw Gabriel walking up. And it's such a horrible thing for, well, like, probably our best player, top 2, top 3 players this season. Like, he made an incredible kind of tackle in the first half when Kvaratskhelia was about to shoot. He had an incredible game. Probably had we won the penalty shootout, he would have probably gotten man of the match.
Yeah, he was by far our best player. Like, on the night, he was outstanding.
So it was just horrible. And as you and I saw, Tabs, on Sunday when Tabs and I went on an open top bus parade of ourselves going around Budapest, and we passed by 2 Gabriel posters on our journey.
You've got this, or something like that. It says,
yeah. It was just like, oh man, but yeah, just horrible feeling.
Well, apparently they'd practiced in training, and he was one of them, and up going 5th as well. So they'd done it. So it is just pressure. It's the pressure of the moment, executing under pressure. Going in, and as you said, I think had we been shooting at our end, shooting first, that would have, I think, different. It's the second time we've experienced this. Like, back in Copenhagen, when again the same thing in front of the Galatasaray fans, shooting second, and if anyone's going to miss, in a way, I'm glad it's not someone like Madueke, because you imagine the shit he would get for missing. So someone like Gabriel, I think he can deal with it. Eze, I think he can deal with it, and they will easily recover. I mean, I don't know if you've heard the stat today that came out that since the penalty miss, sales of Gabriel 6 shirts have gone up 350%. Awesome. over the weekend since. So that shows the support. I'm pretty sure Madueke shirts would not be going up 350%.
I've got 2 quick pen questions for you.
Yeah.
Why does the referee walk away from Gabriel before he takes a penalty and then come back and talks to him again? Did you see that?
Yeah, somebody said this and I didn't notice it.
He'd already put the ball. It looked like the ref had approved where the ball was. He then walked away and then he came back and spoke to him again. So that I wasn't happy with. And then my second thing for your comment would be, I think a toss of a coin to which side you take the penalty in front, which set of fans you take the penalty in front of, is too big an influence to win a final. Why not take them in front of your own fans?
Logistics, TV.
Just have the 2 teams.
It makes such a difference.
Well, for me, then to balance it out is the way to balance it out is you win the toss of which end, the other person then gets to decide who goes first or second, and then that potentially evens itself out. I think potentially logistics, you've got the referee, so then the referee has to then run from one side of the pitch to the other, and it takes up. So, I can understand what you're saying, but I can also understand why not. But then at least, I think to balance it out, and I think they used to do it, whoever wins the toss chooses either end or going first, or whichever. We choose to go second, fine, you can choose the end, and I think that would balance that out. But yeah,
also,
I'm sure
some competitions used to do. Where the first team would take 1 penalty, and then the next team would take
one.
2 penalties.
Yeah, the ABBA one that was called like ABB, AA, BB. Yeah, I don't know why they changed that up, but there must be various reasons. I don't know if that made a difference, but yeah, I mean, for me, the biggest regret, and this would have my other low light, was the Eze one. Just I mean, okay, Jorginho. I've not seen his penalties in the past, but Jorginho did a good stutter penalty. You got some people who are very ran out for it, or you had Tony who does a 1-step penalty, so that's fine. So, but if you're banging in penalties all the time that way, fine. If you're doing it to try and fool the goalkeeper, and he did exactly the right thing and stayed there, I just, as you say, just run up and hit it hard, hit it as hard as you can. And more often than not, I'm pretty sure it's going, but it wasn't meant to be, and. Yeah, it was game over, and it was such a weird feeling, because you think, oh, can we have another go? You're desperate, like, referee, something's gone wrong, and it's sort of like, it's the finality of it. There's no second chance. There's no nothing. There isn't and I did my best to not look at anything PSG related. I was just looking at Arsenal players, Arsenal bench, Arsenal fans. I just didn't want to see it. I mean, I stayed right up until the end and saw the trophy lift. That was the only thing I looked at PSG doing. But other than that, I was just trying to keep my eyes averted from that. And I mean, did you guys stay to the end, to the bitter end, to see it, experience that, or I'm out of here? Because also the other thing is, I didn't speak to anyone for half an hour. Not a word.
I watched the guys they did a small, I wouldn't say lack of appreciation, but they did kind of go around and appreciate the fans. We did that bit, and then once they'd kind of got their backs to us, we walked out. Walked back to the fan park. That was interesting. It was all the fans who were at the fan park were leaving, but loads of fans who were at the stadium were going to the fan park. And we stayed there for about an hour. It's quite nice. It's quite chilled out. What was really funny about that, before I forget to tell you, at the fan park, all the fencing around the toilets and actually the edge of the fan park was like a nice Arsenal logo, red kind of material.
Yeah.
Some Arsenal fans started tearing it off. They must have just been cable tied, right? And this one fan got away with like a bit about 20 meters long, right? And he's being chased by some security guys. Another guy has a bit on his shoulder, looks like a bit of carpet. He was the only guy I saw all weekend with the kind of Notting Hill Carnival coloured warm-up shirt. Do you remember that colour?
Yeah.
So he stood out like a sore thumb, and he's running away. All the Arsenal fans are cheering, and he was being chased by like a really enormous, stacked Budapest security guard. Looked like he was a UFC fighter. In the end, like the guy came back around the corner. The security guard came back with the kind of the material kind of cloth Arsenal thing,
the netting. Yeah.
So everyone started booing him, and he was. To be fair, he played up to it. Then their supervisor came over and said, "Oh, you might as well let him have it."
Really?
Yeah, or the other guys.
So then everyone else starts getting out. So quick, let's go.
Everyone else started getting theirs, but the guy in the Notting Hill shirt went over. They wouldn't give it to him because he'd been cheeky and run off. And then he was on his knees begging them, right, in front of these big hench security guards. And eventually they gave it to him. The security guards got a standing ovation from a few hundred Arsenal fans, giving thumbs up and stuff. It was so funny. And then at the airport, we saw a guy. He had one about 20 meters long. He was trying to fold it. There's that thing that say you can't fold paper more than 7 times or whatever.
Yeah.
Two drunk guys. Yeah. 2 drunk guys trying to fold up. It's like 2 people trying to do a duvet, fold a duvet at the same time, duvet cover. They kept getting it wrong, and then the guy stood up and he put his foot through where it was torn a bit, and he fell over. Loads of Arsenal fans just watching these 2 guys trying to fold. You take it on as carry on. It's like and it was big in the end. It was like a good foot across because it was so long and about 3 meters tall. It was quite funny. But yeah, then we slowly went to the airport and sat there on the floor for about 4 hours till we eventually took off.
Oh yeah, you were part of the crew that went home
3
that
a.m.
night.
flight out.
From was it Terminal 1 that hadn't been opened for like God knows how long. And,
honestly, the reason it should have been, hadn't been opened since 2012 or 2014. Yeah. The gate where the lady or the guy opens the door to let you walk onto the tarmac, that was only 10 meters away in a straight line from passport control. So the people coming through, there was nowhere to go. And if you went anywhere near any of the Hungarian passport control people who all had batons and Glocks and all kinds of pepper spray and stuff, they were getting kind of really annoyed at the Arsenal fans who were genuinely trying to be really nice with them and saying, like, where do you want me to stand? And she was like, I don't care, go over there. But yeah, eventually we got out, although they couldn't find our airplane for a while, which is quite funny.
Was there surprised that all the fans that booked flights turned up and turned up when they said they were going to turn up and stuff like that. So Ian, how much did you stick around after the game, after the penalties? How were you feeling?
I did exactly what Mitch said. I waited for the Arsenal boys to come around. They all did their kind of "we're sorry" clap, and then I was like, I can't stay and watch them lift that trophy, so I left thereafter. But I got a memento myself. Weird timing, because I was out of the stadium, I'd say about 2 minutes, and I caught Gabriel's penalty. I caught the ball. So I have it here.
No, it's good that we can laugh about it already.
Yeah. But no, it was like a funeral procession back to. We had agreed that we were going to walk back to the fan zone to meet up and go back. And then you texted, saying, just go straight to the kind of the metro station, and the way was blocked off. I was further ahead than you, and I would have gotten there like probably about 10 minutes quicker, but they had blocked off the route across Hero Square. So we had to walk all the way around. And at one point I was like, I have no idea where I am, but we got there in the end. But yeah, it was just like a funeral procession. We got onto the I remember I don't know if this is true, Tabs, and I hope you don't mind me saying it, like, because you ended up getting to the tram station first, and you were leaning against the lamppost, and I was approaching you from behind, and I just kind of kicked you to say I'm here, and you turned around and you looked like you were about to cry, like you looked like you were very emotional at that moment.
It's been a very emotional weekend, to be honest. But yeah, it was. Yeah, you're right. You're there. You're sort of like, oh, what could have been? Everyone's lying flat. We had our chance. It was it was almost so close yet so far, and yeah, everyone's going to be like that. There has to be a loser, and the way it happened, yeah, it's just the way it goes. And some couple of statistics here. Look, we only conceded 3 goals in the knockout stages and the final, none from open play. So basically, we conceded 3 penalties. Leverkusen, Atletico, and things, so nothing from open play. And we only trailed for 43 minutes across the entire Champions League campaign, and that was Bilbao. I think majority of that, and I think that was that, and it's that's insane. And look, we went through the whole tournament unbeaten because I guess we lost the match, but we didn't lose the game. But our record in EU finals is not great. We've had 6 finals: 1980, 95, 2000, 2006, 2019. We lost 3 on penalties. We lost 1 with a half goal from the halfway line, 1 with 10 men and more dodgy refereeing. So I don't know. We got to sort that shit out. But look,
I have before we get on to the parade and stuff like that, I do have one statistical question for you, because you have all the stats in front of you. Which was more? Were there more PSG passes or more times that Tabs tripped up in Budapest?
It's a very close call, and I will before we get onto the parade, because that cheers me up. But before that, I've had a real torrid time, and by extension, you guys have had a bit of a torrid time out in Budapest. But I'll get to that in a minute. But yes, I for some reason I cannot seem to walk. That's as quickly as I'm going to put it down, and it did lead to a quite painful fall. But look, I think the ultimate feeling that we were down and we were out and we're somber and flat and low and all the rest of it. But I think, and Mitch, you were saying, we can be so proud of this players, of this team. I think we were the best team in the Champions League this year, the best all-round team, across the whole competition. You said we went unbeaten. We only let in six goals, but we just couldn't get it over the line. And they said this will be fuel for the fire, and progression is what Arteta does. Look at what we've done in the league. The progression, and we've learned every year, and we've got better and better, and stuff. And look, we got to the quarterfinals, then we got to the semi-finals. Now we've got to the final. Okay, so next year, simple, right? Yeah, and it will be our time soon. PSG had to lose a few finals to get to where they are now, and then they had to become a nation-state-owned club and all the rest of it. But there we go. And it seems to be
plus you look at Klopp and Pep. It took them quite a few years to do it.
Exactly, and it seems to do it the Arsenal way is to suffer, and then we have success. So let's see how that goes, and there we go. So look, before we get on to the parade, just a couple of things. One, a reminder, to give us it's a favor, just give us a like and subscribe on the podcast apps. Leave a comment, 5-star rating. It does help on the YouTube channel, on Spotify, on Apple. Just helps with the growth, with the listeners, and we do notice, and it is appreciated. And if you've done it already, thank you very much. And if you haven't, take 2 minutes to do it now, and then come back. And so thank you for that. And I just want also to read out, I did ask for 3-word reviews after the game, and because I like doing these just to get a sense of how people are feeling immediately after a game, and in fact a lot of it was very positive, and it was a very good feeling, coming out of that. I think the reaction, and what was interesting, that there was no anger at it. I think, I guess, losing on penalty, there was just an understanding, or just pride, obviously sad, but there wasn't an anger in the crowd. There wasn't the fans were like upset in that sort of angry sort of way. Everyone was sort of like, say, melancholy, and I think that was what we got in terms of the 3-word review. So on Blue Sky we have Cheech saying we'll be back, Diceman 1984 hurt but proud, Kevlin I love Arsenal, Greg gutted but proud, Sir Alfie lost 1 game, and even then, did we lose? Jan, all is forgiven, and Mr. C the Gooner didn't deserve that. Hans Lejeune was hell of a season, bravo, and Stephen Paul Wren proud as punch. So I love the fact that there's none of the old Gabriel, you missed this, or Eza, you toss it, or whatever like that. It's a real positive outreach. Onto threads, we had Terry B 666 will be back. Astrid Felician, champions of England. Matt M867, proud. Emro, proud of them. The Johnny Man, Penzalowski, yeah. Brian L Ding, we go again. Nikki Guna 06, near yet far. 51 Envisage. Fuck. Yeah, I guess, yeah, that's absolutely right. Jamie R. PR, we go again. Cat. Michael Oliver's cousin. Yep, I hear you. Nelson, penalties really suck. And Ricard's, Damien, we have arrived. Yeah, I think the world knows who we are. And then Moz, who I was sitting with for the game, limbs were unreal. Alex Munro, and this is from the Grove WhatsApp group chat. Alex Munro would go again. CERN, Dynasty just beginning. Alistair, must hit target. Yeah, I guess that does help. Noel Mickedy, ours next season. And Alan, it's not done. So I think that really sums up the sentiment amongst the fan group. And we go from Champions League agony to parade ecstasy. And look, yeah, after the final loss the following day, the parade, and what a celebration it was. There was no sense of doom and gloom on the streets of Islington. This was pure, unfiltered joy and celebration. Yeah, 1 million plus on the streets over a 9-kilometre route, which apparently is the largest ever organised event held in the UK. The most diverse crowd you'll see together, all joined in unison in celebration. But look, Mitch, you were there, and you've got a few words to say on this. And me and Ian have surely got FOMO, but go for your life. How was it being there? You know, I'm sure it was all worth the effort, sleeping on a cold floor to be there. So, and I can see you really excited to tell us about it. But
So in the end, I didn't sleep the night I flew out because it was an early flight, and then obviously we then had one night in Budapest, and then we flew out the next day back. So I arrived in Luton at about 5:30 in the morning. So I slept once in 3 days. So I was wired. Yeah. So arrived at Luton, jumped in the car, and then caught an 8:57 train into London. When I got off, they were diverting us through Seven Sisters, which is quite ironic. So when we actually drove past Spurs Stadium on the way in, which is funny, to Seven Sisters. Only when you got off that train did I realise there was probably 300 or 400 Arsenal fans on one train, just going into London. Got the tube over to Finsbury Park, and then as you got off the tube at Finsbury Park, you realise it was different. I walked out the tube station at 9:30, Finsbury Park, and it was already packed. It's 2.5. That's 4.5 hours before it was going to start. About an hour that way. There was literally Arsenal fans queuing up everywhere, already queuing up and saving their spaces on the fencing. We walked kind of past the 12 pins, past the old tavern pub where I used to go back as a kid, as a youngster, and we got a really good spot just opposite the Clissold Park Tavern. Unfortunately, we bought lunch and drinks because there were queues of about 30 people to get into the most basic of convenience stores. It was insanely busy. The time went by really well. We were watching the parade slowly edge its way out of the Emirates initially, and then on YouTube. What's funny is every ambulance or police car that kind of went past the route was cheered, literally as if Mikel Arteta was driving it himself. But it was the helicopter circling above that kind of gave us an idea as to how close the parade was. So initially we were looking up towards Emirates that way, and it was kind of the two helicopters were coming around. I guess one doing the TV and one as a police helicopter. But there was constant flares, there was beach balls, there was proper footballs playing around. There was no significant police where we were. It was just kind of like standard security guys and girls who were being really, really nice to the fans, no issues at all. Then suddenly after just under 4.5 hours, the parade was in sight. The red flares kind of just towards the park went off, and you just got a little glimpse of the coaches coming into sight. They did go past pretty quick. I mean, I've been to many a carnival as a kid, which are a little bit slower, but there was like a row of security, then a row of police, and a row of security in front of the buses and things. Those guys some of those were struggling to power walk at the pace they've been required to power walk at. They were really, really close. I mean, I felt like I got some eye contact with a few of the players, and then I saw one of the staff, a mate of mine, at the back of the bus. So it was really nice to kind of get contact with him. But then as soon as the bus passed, they hadn't said this, I don't think, on any of the comms, that you could kind of follow the fourth bus. And that suddenly became a thing, and everyone's jumping over the fences. We didn't do that. We walked about 70 minutes worth, 3.5 miles, to go and have a nice dinner at King's Cross, a place called Harry's. But walked along past the Islington Town Hall, along the Regent's Canal. All the roads were closed and it was heaving everywhere. There was an Arsenal fan in every direction you looked. There was North London Forever wafting out of open house windows. Cars were beeping to Arsenal chants, people cheering, people singing about the Arsenal. Every pub was full of Arsenal fans. Every restaurant and cafe had Arsenal fans sitting, eating inside. On every side street you looked up and there would be an Arsenal fan somewhere. There was Arsenal colours absolutely everywhere you looked. They would shout out. They would shout over to you from the other side of the street and you'd respond, or they shout out a flat window at you. Sometimes you catch the eye of someone as they kind of walk past in the opposite direction. A few times you just kind of nod, go, yeah, you know, we're Prem winners. Other times they'd smile at you. Other times they'd just burst into songs. But there were fans, flags, faces and flares everywhere you went for about, because we didn't leave London until about 9:30. I would say probably 12 hours. And I know it carried on later than that.
Yeah, I saw videos people like 11:30 still outside the Emirates singing and dancing.
This wasn't just about Arsenal fans supporting their club. It was about human beings with a similar passion connecting, with no hint of division from politics, religion, wealth, nationality. There was no disagreement, not even on starting 11s. No one talked about penalties. No one talked about transfer activity. I didn't see or hear one bit of trouble. It was a joyous, wonderful celebration that had community and happiness at the heart of it. The young, the old, locals, those coming in from London or outside London, and those coming in from wider parts of the UK and abroad, all united in their love for Arsenal. It was a glorious day, and it was the proudest Arsenal supporting day of my life. Even though the day before I'd walked away from Budapest saying that Champions League final was the proudest Arsenal supporting day of my life because of how the Arsenal fans performed and behaved overseas. I was really, really proud of them. But yesterday, Arsenal fans were a credit to the club, and the club was a credit to the City of London, and everyone around the world could see that. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it was mesmerising to watch, and how much the players felt watching that. It's just such a positive atmosphere. Any player seeing that adulation who wouldn't want to join us this summer? And it was very easy to forget the Champions League loss. And when they're seeing that and experiencing that, how did you manage to catch any of it in on your travels home? Were you able to sort of tune in on YouTube or follow on the socials?
I didn't tune in on YouTube, but I was keeping an eye on the socials. And yeah, there were so many great clips. My favorite clips were the ones that surfaced from the players, because obviously they have the perfect view, you know. And some of them are classics. Kai Havertz must have been off his face because he was pulling sunglasses off players' faces and throwing them into the crowd and laughing. At one point, Frimmy was up on the bus and he was trying to interview Kai Havertz, and he was just like, just nonsensical stuff like it. And I love to see that, because the players deserve this downtime now. You know, they've been under so much pressure, and it's just great to see them enjoy themselves. My favorite clip, well, two favorite clips. One was Mark Nodegaard trying to head the ball into the crowd and then hitting the policeman on the head.
And then he hit.
See that? Yeah, and then he hit. He was like, I'm not owning up to that, because I'd say I would have actually loved the camera to stay on the policeman, because I'd say he thought somebody in the crowd did that. So I'd say the policeman was probably going, well, who was that? I'm going to kill them. But yeah,
it was him. It was Martin. It was Martin up in the bus.
Yeah. And then the other one was when I don't know if you saw this, where the guy had brought like his baby to the front window, and the Arsenal crowd started singing, "We want our baby back." I just love stupid little things like that. But the whole thing, I got fierce FOMO. Now, I wouldn't have changed a thing, obviously, being to Budapest, and fair play to you, Mitch, for getting home so early. I did at one point, I think I said this to you guys, I got so much FOMO that during the week before I flew over, I checked out flights, the Wizz Air flights, you know, that 2 a.m., 5 a.m., and there was one available for £770 to get back to London. So I was like, no, do you know what? I won't do that. But yeah, it looked incredible.
Did you see the video that David Raya put out when they went to Highbury Islington, and there was about 600 people on the roof of Highbury Islington tube station?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I wouldn't. And that building, that's the bit of the building they haven't used for years. So that probably isn't under kind of constant survey and care and looking after it. I was worried that people were going to fall through. So I did hear that, I think it was, I forgot the amount. There was something like 63 people, I think it was 63, arrested from high location. Oh, no, rescued from high locations.
Oh, rescue. Not arrested.
A lot
for
of people,
location.
not arrested, but like just rescued because they were stuck up trees. And there was one video of a load of Arsenal fans singing, "We know you're stuck up there," and there was a guy and he couldn't get down, and they were going, "We know you're stuck up there," and he was going, "No, I'm fine," but he was literally stuck up a tree. It's quite funny.
And there was another tree. I don't know if you saw the one where the tree collapsed. There was three.
Wow.
There was three. Arsenal
This is
fans
easy. Is this
in a
easy for
tree.
you to say, Ian?
You know, it's terrible. There are three. There are three Arsenal fans up in the tree, and the tree actually just collapsed the top of it. Now, I don't think anybody was hurt, but yeah, it was crazy.
Ian, no one would have noticed the difference if you said 2 or 4, by the way.
I know, yeah. I just wanted to be factually correct, that's all.
Okay. It is so hard to comprehend how massive this event was, and I love the fact that the tifos were out. They had banners out at various places. You know, Kepa's video was brilliant as well. You know, I think it was Ben White throwing the sunglasses, Odegaard sunglasses, and for a minute Odegaard was really pissed off, and he said, "Oh, yeah," and then Ben White was calling for Hincapié to get his ass out, and then you see Josh Kroenke giving it some. He was like, he was going absolutely
He's invested.
crazy.
He is invested.
He's a fan now. So, and look, my son was up there, so he went up there with his girlfriend, got a bit of the merch, and they had a really good spot down the Seven Sisters. So I got getting his videos and his pictures, and then the Grove group chat was setting stuff. So yeah, it really helped with my mood, which I'll get to. But the final point before we get to that, it does show you how us three and many people like this, how privileged we are, and how precious what we have is, being able to go week in, week out to see the Arsenal, to be in that stadium, to follow them. You know, how many of those people on the streets there would give the right just to get to one match, let alone be in our position to be able to go to Budapest, to go to the Emirates, and stuff like that. So it just shows that the support is massive, and I'm sure there's obviously lots of friends and family and hangers on and stuff like that. Even my Angelica's girlfriend, she's not really a football fan, bought the t-shirt, bought the hat, got that, and all the rest of it. But it just shows what it is to support this club, and it is a real privilege to do that. And a lot of people finally got a chance to celebrate their heroes, in one format or another. Weren't able to make it there on the Tuesday, weren't able to make it there on the day of the Palace. It was just such a joyous occasion and absolutely insane. And as I said, it really cheered me up, because I think I did need a bit of cheering up, because actually we were destined not to win this final, because in terms of travelling and what we had, and yes, Mitch, I will mention the crack then. Because
oh dear,
get into Budapest. My flight was delayed and all the rest of it, but that's normal. But then on then day 2, we needed to change accommodation, and that was insane. So the accommodation we had, they were being very furtive, is that right? Very non-communicative. We were meant to be checking in at 3:00, and eventually said, "Oh, go to this place," and all the rest of it. We've got some trouble with the existing tenants, but we'll get them out, and you can go in. And we turn up, knock on the door, and let's just say some characters come out, a couple of guys looking a bit dishevelled, smoking and whatnot, and say, no, we've got this booked for tonight, and all the rest of it. And they're Hungarian, we're English, no one can speak a word to each other. And then this woman pops out with the darkest of eyes, and then say, well, if you pay us money, we might leave, and stuff like that. So, okay, great. This isn't going to be the place we're going to stay, and we soon made it out of there before we started getting offered other alternative ways of enjoying ourselves, and so on. And so then I had to spend the rest of the afternoon at a folk concert in the middle of Budapest, trying to contact Booking.com to rearrange accommodation, which didn't require a second mortgage. And then halfway through one of those conversations, it went from folk to rock and roll, and I had to then walk about 5 minutes away so I could continue the conversation.
All in really loud Hungarian. Like, it wasn't like they were singing songs that we knew the words to. It was like,
no, exactly. So we can enjoy that. Even though Ian, with his folk background, was enjoying some of the during some of the,
I thought you were great.
yeah, the diddly dee music was up there giving it a jig. But eventually, up in Ian managed to find accommodation, which was fine. I've got a message from them because I left a review about the most uncomfortable sofa bed in the world ever, and I'm waiting to see what they say about that. Mitch is fortunate enough to have an old university pal in Hungary, so he went in Budapest, so went to stay with him. But so that eventually worked out okay, and then traveling, and then we lose the game, great, and then traveling back yesterday. More delays, miss a connecting flight from via Vienna back to London. So then I had to be put up in a hotel in Vienna. I then get found out that we're not going to be able to get you home until Tuesday via Warsaw. I said, well, that ain't happening. Anyway, cut a long story short, after spending hour upon hour with stupid chatbots and whatnot, and being pushed from pillar to post, managed to fly back this morning. And unfortunately, then I went basically straight from the airport to works. So in terms of travel, it wasn't the most pleasant. And I guess with the amount of traveling I've done this year with Arsenal abroad, it's bound to happen. And guess what? And then to top it all off, here we go. I had the most painful hip ever, because on my Sunday morning, I went for a run on Sunday morning just to clear my head. I fell over, unsurprisingly to Ian, and smashed my hip on the floor, because I don't know what happened to me all weekend. I'd been tripping on every single possible thing on the floor. Even so much going into a restaurant, they thought I was drunk because I was tripping up the stairs. I don't know if it. Please, Mitch, tell me: is it old age? Is it eyesight? I don't know what it is. And so then there's me. I had to run for a bus to get to the airport, which was excruciatingly painful, and then trying to run through an airport to catch a flight that I ultimately missed. It wasn't the greatest of travelling experiences, and guess what? I'll do it all again for the Arsenal. I'll do it all again for the Arsenal. So that's why the watching the parade and all that, it sort of did cheer me up, because I did need cheering up, because I was not a happy puppy last night. But all is forgotten. We are champions. And that's that. So look, thank you guys for joining me this evening. That was good to reminisce. Despite the result, I think we've got a lot to be happy about, to being Arsenal fans. And saying that we need a rest, I can't really wait until August when it all starts again.
Thanks for your
company.
Thank you,
Ian. Sorry, thanks, Mitch, for joining.
Yeah, thanks for your company in Budapest, boys. Had a good time.
Yeah, it was great, and thanks for joining me tonight, Mitch, and thanks, Ian. Tell people what you get up to and where they can find you on the socials. That is.
Well, I'm thinking of opening up a crack then in Budapest. I'm going to reach out to those Hungarian the people we saw. But no, you see me on the socials at Ars Cannon Pics. Yeah, send me in a picture of your cannons from all over the world. And look, guys, it was a pleasure to spend that time in Budapest with you. We had some adventure, and look, the game didn't go our way, but we'll go and do it again. We'll go and do it again next season.
Yeah, and we met loads of people that we knew, and it was great to share that experience. We met loads of new people that we didn't know. Everyone was so friendly, Arsenal fans and the locals, and yeah, so a great experience all around, despite all the external shenanigans and the penalties. But we go again. So look, you can follow us on Threads, Blue Sky, X, TikTok, Twitter, whatever, Instagram at The Grove AFC. Our next pod will be sometime next week, when we'll do a bit of a season review, awards pod, and have a bit of fun doing that, and then we'll see where we go from there. And look, thank you for listening. Yeah, as I said before, I feel this is the end of the beginning. I think we are on the cusp of something huge at this club. We have another important summer ahead of us in terms of squad regeneration. We have an exciting opportunity ahead of us, and it's time to make hay whilst the sun shines. I feel we are champions of England. The backing is there. We are massive, with the best supporters in the world. Who wouldn't want a piece of that? And as for the Champions League, that can wait. we'll get our hands on it sooner rather than later. And when we do, just like the Premier League, it will taste so, so sweet. So again, thank you for listening. Go and enjoy your non-Arsenal lives. And until the next time, come on, you Gunners.